Pakistan may not be able to win this competition, but their opponents, Djibouti, can. How are Djibouti top of the group, you may ask? Well, they were helped in a small way by Kenya Airlines, of all people, who delayed the Kenya national football team on their way to Mauritius, resulting in a walkover 3-0 win in arguably the hardest game that Djibouti were going to play. But nonetheless, let's give them some credit. They then really turned up and beat hosts Mauritius 3-1. Even more impressive because we'd already seen Mauritius comfortably beat Pakistan on the opening day. I really thought that Mauritius would maybe go on and walk the whole tournament, to be honest, but Djibouti, that was a real shock, seeing them easily dispatch the hosts. Kenya, of course, they did then arrive and they were able to play their second match on time against Pakistan, a far improved Pakistan. That one ended 1-0 to Kenya, but lots of positives to take. Issa Suleiman, or Sulaiman, please let me know how to pronounce that, helping to make that a very, very close match. And actually both teams had chances as well. Pakistan were far better going forward. So, based on the evidence, there's no way that Pakistan can win. Surely. That's where I think you might be wrong. They go into this one as underdogs, but let's not forget that as a side that barely ever plays games, so just to kind of quantify that, this month alone, even if they don't get out of the SAF Championship groups, they'd have played more games in June this month than across the previous 3 years. Just to kind of put into perspective how infrequently this team plays. We've already seen huge progression from match day 1 to match day 2. Leaps and bounds. So what are they going to produce for us in this game? A tough game, yes. But the rankings are quite close. Djibouti, they're good. They're not great. You know, I don't think that their win against Mauritius was a one-off. I think that would be harsh to say. But this isn't going to be a clear case of Mauritius beat Pakistan 3-0, Djibouti beat Mauritius 3-1, therefore it's going to be 6-1. That's not how it's going to work. That's not how football works. I think it'll be a far, far closer game. And if we see a few changes for Pakistan, I think they could actually cause a real problem for Djibouti. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the role of Harun Hamid, the young QPR attacking midfielder. He's been a particularly bright spark for Pakistan in this tournament. He's been easily skipping past opposition players and seems to be one of the only players at the moment, even at his young age, that can turn defence into attack for the Asian side. In the first game we saw him out on the left a little bit more, and the second game he drifted over to the right. He was kind of playing on a bit of the wings. For me, he needs to be in that number 10 role. It's a flexible 4-2-3-1 system or a 5-2-3. There's lots of different ways that Pakistan set up. But if they have someone in that central number 10 role, it needs to be Harun Hamid. For me, you play him there, you push Otis Khan out onto the wings. Immediately the thought process would be to put him out to the left wing. We've seen him a few times, get down the left, cut in, have some pop shots. I disagree with that setup. We have to look at statistics. Otis Khan, when he gets down on the left, yes, he can cut in and have a shot, but we've not seen him as yet be able to get to the byline and cut it back. It's because he's favouring his right foot, so when he's on the left, he's going to cut in. I'd play him on the right. I think with the right setup and the right tactical system and the right balls in behind, get him on the right-hand side, down to the byline and cutting balls back across with his favoured right. All right, you reduce the probability that he is going to score a goal himself. But when you have reasonable players that can get into the box, you're going to create more chances. Or at least, if he gets down and hits the byline, tries to cut it back across, you're going to win more corners. Simple statistics will tell you that you're more likely to win a corner when you get to the byline and try and whip it back across than if you cut in and shoot. Because if you cut in and shoot, the only way you're going to win a corner is if it flicks off a defender or it's such a good effort that the keeper has to tip it wide or tip it over. And as we've seen, they've not been able to do that as yet. So I'd like to see Harun Hamid play down the middle. I'd like to see Otis Khan play on the right-hand side in this game. Also, we need to talk about fullbacks because Mauritius, Kenya, and Djibouti will do the same, exploiting the wings. These sides have lots of pace to play with, pace in abundance. They're getting down the wings and they're causing real problems. There's a number of ways that you can deal with this tactically. Obviously, the back five helps support that. You end up potentially in 2v1 defensive scenarios where you have the two players as the defending side against the one winger. However, This allows teams with attacking fullbacks to progress their fullbacks kind of free of charge, is the term that I'll use, if they get it right. Secondly, it obviously reduces your attacking threat. There's a huge physical demand on the wing-backs to get up and down unless you really park the bus, which I don't think we'll see from this Pakistan team. I think we'll see a variation of a flexible 4-2-3-1 system, and the way that I would like to see it defended is actually an irregular back four that plays closer to 4 centre-backs. If you look at Mauritius' first goal as an example, I believe it was the first goal, might have been the second, the Mauritian winger gets the ball on the left wing. It's a counter-attacking scenario, but there's not too much danger when he picks up the ball. The danger comes with the gap that appears between the right back and the right-sided centre-back. Firstly, depth. There are 2 different depths defensively. Secondly, the width. It opens up far too much. This allows the Mauritian to cut inside. Goes to feint down the wing, cuts inside. The fullback's then beaten, but the centre-back is too far away from the fullback to close down before he can drift further and further and further inside. Let's take nothing away from the finish. It was a stunner, top bins, right? That is completely cut out if the right back, well, there's 2 things. Number 1, centre back, full back, they need to be more in unison, closer together, they need to work out what they're doing. If the right back actually forces, if he drifts inside, you play a narrow back 4 system, you force the winger down the wing. More often than not in the modern game, we see inverted wingers, and if you play a narrow back 4, what you're essentially saying is cross it. Because we believe in the box, in front of the goal, we can deal with it. And I'd argue that with the relatively good goalkeeping we've seen from the Pakistan goalkeeper, okay, give or take a little bit, I think he's broadly been okay. And the height that they do have, I think they're physically solid enough to deal with Djibouti aerially. I'd like to see the back 4 play narrower. Allow Djibouti to have the ball on the wings, but make sure that when the ball does come in the box, you clear it. A number of things here. If they've got space on the wing, Djibouti, it's likely that more players push into the box. They see the chances as the ball goes out wide. The attacking midfielders, maybe even the central midfielder, drifts into the box. This allows the counter-attack. Granted, it's a risk-reward system. You are allowing the opposition to get the ball into the box more, risky, but if you clear it, you have a counter-attacking opportunity. And this is what I'd like to see Pakistan exploit a little bit more. I think that Djibouti are good, but I don't think they're good enough that you have to worry about them whipping constant balls into the box that you can't deal with. It's a very risky way of dealing with it, and you may disagree with me, but I think the fullbacks have been exploited way too much from a Pakistan perspective, and I'd like to see them do something about it. They don't have to play a narrow back 4. The fullbacks can stay where they are and another centre-back can drop in, or perhaps they get support from one of the defensive midfielders. They just need to change something because it's becoming all too easy, and teams are going to work them out. Let's not think that Igor Stimac and the Indian national team are so focused on their game that they're not watching what Pakistan do. They'll watch all the highlights. One of the brilliant things about this tournament is that Pakistan get to play. One of the negatives is you've got fresh games from an India perspective that they can look at, and they will be able to exploit it. India are better than the sides we're seeing. We have to say that, whether we like it or not. With the exception of maybe a really strong version of the Kenya team, India are better than these teams. Pakistan need to work out defensively how they're dealing with exploitation in the fullback scenarios. I would play narrow, low block, spring on the counter, Harun Hamid the pivot in the central midfield, Otis Khan on the right. That's just my take. It's been a bit more of a tactical deep dive than I thought it was going to be, in all honesty. I think it's going to be a really tricky game. Mauritius and Kenya, they'll be hoping that Pakistan can do it. It's the only way that Djibouti cannot win this series is Pakistan beating them. A draw, of course, gives Djibouti the win because of that walkover. It would give them 7 points, an unbeaten series, which would do wonders, I'm sure, for their world ranking. Not sure what the walkover will do for their world ranking, to be honest. I assume it makes no difference. I don't think Kenya will be punished in the world rankings because of that. But it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be tough for both sides, I think, but we're focusing on Pakistan here. We're focusing on a side that's not played much, has improved a lot between games 1 and 2, but they need to make a few changes, and they can win this game. Will they? Have your say in the comments. Predict for me what you think the lineup's going to be. Let me know what you think about the kind of way too in-depth tactics that I've gone into about the Pakistan national football team and how they should set up. But I'm interested in your thoughts, and of course predict the scoreline as well. It'd be great if you could like the video as well. It just helps us out. in the algorithm, and of course subscribe if you love the tash. There's an explanation behind it, but for now you're just going to have to trust that I'm a man with a mustache talking about football. Thanks for supporting the channel, and as always, we'll see you next time.